Well, mild and unsettled is the theme through the course of the weekend, and it looks as if we could have a little shot of colder air to end the month of March. Thanks for clicking on to the Saturday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Hope everybody is well today and enjoying their weekend thus far. This is the area of low pressure, as you can see here, floating around, bringing shower activity. We've got a mix of sunshine, cloud cover, showers, longer spells of rain. It is a bit of a mixed bag. We've also got what almost would resemble April-like shower activity across many parts of the British Isles. Also, thanks to a strong, warm sun coming in, cooler aloft, and of course, you get the development of those pesky showers that develop underneath one of those showers. You can see a significant amount of rain in a short space of time, but of course, it is hit and miss. It looks as if this is off the ECMWF that we've got an area of more organised rain that tries to move in during the second half of today across many areas. So notice here we've got a kind of uniform area of rain, more organised rain across the northern half of the British Isles. Further south, we've got those hit and miss April-like showers. If we look at the UK, we're honing in on the UK. You'll get a better view of that because you're probably straining your eyes to try and see what I'm talking about. So we'll play through the next several hours, and what we've got is that area of low pressure kind of organised and deepening. We've got an organised area of rain across more northern portions of the UK. Like I say, shower activity across the south. Underneath those showers, you could see localised flooding. That area of low pressure heads on up towards Shetland, as you can see here. A little bit of a fluctuation in the model output, actually, because it looks as if that system, rather than deepening as initially thought, it actually looks as if, according to the ECMWF anyway, it kind of actually weakens and heads a little bit more up towards the Shetland area. So we do have some increased breeze, rain activity across the UK today. But then, of course, area of high pressure builds in before the next system moves in from the west, and that is going to bring a spell of rain, increased wind, and also notice here that the model is printing out some hill snow as well. It's seeing more in the way of wintry precipitation because we've got slightly colder air getting drawn in. Now remember what I said in the last few videos about how the potential push south of the storm track, and I'll show you in just a second exactly that being the case as per the latest run of the ECMWF about the return of blocking across the north of Greenland, or Greenland should I say, and that forces the storm track a little bit further south. So therefore, of course, as you force the storm track further south, you're forcing colder air further south as well. I think it looks as if we are going to have a chilly end of the month of March, and I think it will reinforce, despite the fact that we've got a mild weekend at the moment, it should reinforce the colder than average March that was predicted here on the channel for the last several weeks now. But we'll go back to the big picture here, and you can see what happened. So there's the weekend system at the moment moving out of the way, replaced by another system later in the day on Sunday, bringing a spell of hill snow, mainly rain in the majority of the population areas you can see here. And then as we play into the early and middle portion of the week, we've got just one system after another, a bit of a conga line developing here, bringing plenty of moisture, and of course with parts of the south and parts of the UK generally close to the average for the month of March. We are going to go above average rainfall wise, and this is the big stark contrast to the month of February that we've seen. We've seen it back in December, we've seen it in January, we've seen it in February. We've had this kind of up and down in terms of rainfall distribution, and if you haven't already done so, do check out the last couple of videos that talk about the potential developing El Nino. It looks as if that is going to be the case, the implications that may have, and it's the initial thoughts. It isn't a written in stone forecast, but it may, my ideas with regards to how that El Nino may respond to the weather pattern across the UK and Ireland, and indeed Europe for the summer upcoming. So do check that out. Do subscribe to the channel if you have already done so, because there's a lot of things to look at, discuss, and I'm going to be sharing a lot in the next coming weeks here with regards to the upcoming summer pattern. But watch this space. This is Tuesday of next week here. You notice here we've got more mess coming in off the Atlantic. More moisture, more rain totals mounting up. So flooding is going to become an issue. But this is, of course, good thing at the moment with the dry conditions that we've seen during the month of February. But is this potentially a sign of what's to come later down the road? Now, of course, the ECMWF Longrange, the Met Office, has that strong ridge of high pressure planked over the UK for the summer months, i.e., June through August. That would almost coincide with dry and hot conditions for the upcoming summer. I'm not entirely convinced that that's what's going to happen, but I may be wrong. We'll wait and see, of course, as time goes on. But as you can see here, notice here that as we start to build pressure across Greenland, across the North Atlantic, it's forcing this upper vortex of low pressure, this complex area of low pressure. Yes, we've got areas of low pressure down at the surface, but we've got this big trough in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere with surface lows underneath that. What we're seeing is this getting forced further and further south. You notice here that we're starting to see northerly winds developing up over the Norwegian Sea, as you can see here. Play through the loop, and you notice the entire complex is getting forced south with the storm track as that building pressure develops over the North Atlantic and Greenland here. So all of a sudden, we're back into a colder theme, but a more typical cold theme for the time of the year. This isn't the extreme cold that was seen back at the beginning of the month, but nonetheless, it will be below average temperatures and indeed continuation of unsettled conditions. Now, as we play through towards the next weekend, this is a long way out, of course, we will see fluctuations in the output. But notice here that the area of low pressure gets forced further and further south. High pressure to the north, to the west. We've got northerly winds coming in. So a chilly, nagging northerly flow develops. And if you look at the 850 temperatures, you can see here that we're pulling in cold air once again. But of course, we have to take into consideration the time of the year, and we're not going to see the same kind of cold that we did at the beginning of the month. But this is certainly going to keep the temperatures below average. A chilly end to the month of March looks more likely, increasingly likely. And this has been seen in the medium range, of course, in the models as well. So it's not really overly surprising that we had this surge of mild replaced by another shot of nagging cold. So we're not out of the woods yet in terms of winteriness, chilly conditions, jacket weather, and whatnot. I think we're going to see episodes of chill even into the month of April, given the long-lasting effects of the major southern stratospheric warming that took place here. Back to the overview chart, and as you can see here, we are in a much more southerly displaced storm track. Areas of low pressure coming in more across France, even across Iberia. We've got cold areas of low pressure. We are going to still see snow above 200, 250 meters. We could see some fleeting accumulations down to sea level, especially during the overnight period when the column cools. Harder during the daytime to get accumulating snow at low levels. High ground, it's still very, very possible indeed. Snow at this time of the year and even into the month of April is not uncommon. I wrote an article a few years back saying that getting accumulating snow during the month of April at sea level is unusual, not so much with elevation. So it's all about perspective, I think, when it comes to this. All the while, we're going to be talking about heat across eastern portions of Europe. But notice as we play through the loop, notice where the storm track is. It's well to the south. Keeping an eye on these little areas of low pressure embedded within the cold flow, we could see some interesting wintry precipitation developing with these features. But yeah, certainly an interesting wintry theme to end the month of March. And this coincides beautifully with the overall ideas that I've had all along. Let's have a look at the snow projections. This is initially off the GFS, by the way. We've not been looking at that, of course. But as we play through the loop, you can see here that kind of flexing back and forward between snow cover, depending on elevation. And you notice here that we are seeing some relatively decent printouts here, especially towards the very, very end of the month. you notice here. But again, any snow down the low levels is very, very temporary indeed at this time of the year. You just cannot hold on to snow cover at this time of the year. So very interesting stuff indeed. Let's have a look at the 2 meter temperature anomalies to end today's video, and you can see here what we're looking at. So mild at the moment, and then as we progress through the course of next week, we start to see that cold gathering to the north of the British Isles, as you can see, and eventually that comes further and further south with that pressure building up towards the northwest here. Look at Eastern Europe. Very, very hot conditions. Wouldn't be surprised. Even Southern Europe, if you notice here, Spain through the Mediterranean basin and up through the Balkan region, up in through Ukraine, Russia. We could be talking about all-time record March temperatures being set towards the end of the month, while we've got a nagging, wintry, lingering situation going on across the British Isles here. So that's it for today. I appreciate you watching. Do check out tomorrow's video. I'm going to have a global weather and climate report talking about the California snow, extreme heat in parts of the world. I didn't look at Cyclone Freddy last week, which I should have done. We'll have a wee look at that and see what records that particular cyclone broke. So yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. See you again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.